One of the most important factors when you're thinking about keeping any reptile is how willing are they to be handled. That's one of my favorite things about keeping reptiles. So today, let's go over the top 5 friendliest reptiles you could possibly keep. My name's Adam, this is Diamond. You're watching Wickens of Reptiles. Stick around. Many people keep different reptiles for different reasons, and some people don't care about handling their animals at all, but I do, and maybe you do too. So today I want to go over the top 5 friendliest reptiles, and normally in these lists I try to kind of spruce it up and talk about animals maybe you've never heard of before, but today I want to get right to the point. 5 reptiles you can reach into their enclosure and not worry about getting bit most of the time. And just before we get going, thank you to Ren for sponsoring today's video. Okay, number 5, blue-tongued skinks. Something you've seen on the channel a million times before. I love my blue-tongued skinks. I've got Steve and I've got Irwin. Yes, exactly for that reason. And I think these guys, I don't really have to worry about putting my hand in there and picking them up, especially Irwin, because he was socialized at a young age. Steve was a little bit more work. I think the name of the game here with a blue-tongued skink is you really have to worry about being socialized young. If they're not socialized young, you might have some issues, but otherwise, I think these are one of the more tame, one of the more easily socialized type of skinks and type of animals in general when it comes to reptiles. And the best thing is there's really a skink for you, no matter if you're in somewhere like, say, Arizona, where it's really, really dry, or if you're in South Florida, where it's really, really humid. I live in a place where it's really, really humid, so if I wanted, I could keep my Indonesian blue-tongued skink, Irwin, outside, because it's kind of the perfect temperature, and it's the perfect humidity level, because Indonesians like it a little bit more humid, where the Northerns, which is, I guess, probably the most commonly kept in captivity species, they like it a little bit drier. So no matter what you like, you want a humid loving animal or you want a dry loving animal or less humid anyway, there's really one for you, no matter what you like. And either way, if you socialize them young, like I mentioned, they're gonna be kind of a great companion. And one of the animals that if you want to, say, take out on the floor and kind of play around with or just have them on your lap while you watch a movie, whatever it is that you like to do when it comes to handling your animal, a blue-tongued skink is really a fantastic option. So I really couldn't not have them on the list. Blue-tongued skinks are pretty awesome. Number 4, spotted pythons. Now, I usually group this with Antaresia, which is the group of children's pythons, Stimson's pythons, pygmy pythons, and spotted pythons. Or I guess now the Stimson's pythons and children's pythons are neither here nor there. Spotted python is the one that I own. This is Jimmy, my spotted python. I love this guy. I can reach right in there. I don't have to worry about anything unless he's hungry, but that's with every animal. You have to worry about that. And I don't have to worry about him kind of being nippy or aggressive or defensive or anything like that. If I'm looking for an animal a little bit smaller than another snake on this list that we're gonna get to that I wanna handle, he's the one that I go to almost always. Just because they are kind of a perfect size in my opinion. When they get to full size, generally a spotted python, which is the largest species of python in the smallest species of python, Antaresia, they're gonna get 4-ish feet long. Now there are some giants that get to like 6 feet long, like the one you see here, but even so, this was a very tiny animal. Definitely less weight than an average sized ball python. They're slender bodied. So although maybe a little bit more fragile than a ball python, I think that in terms of temperament, they're very similar and also just a little bit different. What I really love is they're semi-arboreal. So a tiny snake or small-ish snake that's semi-arboreal is pretty awesome. I love boa constrictors, but the thing is they're big and semi-arboreal, so you need a pretty big enclosure where you can get away with a much smaller enclosure compared to a boa with a spotted python. Amazing to handle, nothing to worry about, and they're honestly so gentle and not very fast moving. Especially maybe if you're a beginner watching this, I think that's probably who this video speaks to. If you're looking for a snake that's not gonna be super darty and flighty, a spotted python really is one of the best options, and they're pretty readily available, and they're not that expensive. Spotted pythons are pretty awesome. Am I gonna say that about every single, what? Probably. They're all awesome. Before we move on, I wanna say thank you to the sponsor of today's episode, Ren. I love businesses that give back to the environment, and that's why I partnered with Ren for this video. Ren is a simple and effective way to offset your carbon footprint and make a difference in today's climate crisis. On the website, you can calculate your carbon footprint and choose to offset it by funding carbon reduction projects like tree planting or rainforest protection. No matter how you feel about climate change, I'm sure we can all agree replanting forests, planting trees are really great for today's environment. The idea is to go to the website, answer a few questions based on your lifestyle, and find out your carbon footprint. And once you sign up to make monthly contributions to offset your carbon footprint, you receive monthly updates on a full transparency to see where your money is actually being spent. You get photos and details on every tree replanted and every acre of rainforest that has been preserved thanks to your monthly contribution. One of the great projects, and the one that really resonates with me, is their tech-enabled Amazon rainforest protection. They're using things like satellites and drones to spot deforestation before it gets large on a grand scale where it can no longer rebound. So offset your carbon footprint on Ren, and the first 100 people to sign up get an extra 10 trees planted in their name. Thank you to Ren for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to the list. Number 3, leopard geckos. Obviously, they have to be on the list. I know they're one of the most basic type reptiles, but I don't care. I love them. I think the difference is, and why they're not number 1 on the list, is the socialization has to happen young, because believe it or not, there are some geckos that are kind of screamy. Like, that's the thing with a leopard gecko. When they bite you, if they were to bite you, it wouldn't be a big deal. It'd be like a non-event. But it's very unlikely that they'll bite you, especially if you socialize them when they're young. And it's not difficult to socialize a leopard gecko. Just handle it when it's a baby. They might come out of the egg a little bit screamy, but if you buy it from a breeder, that would have been tamed out already anyway. And if you are the breeder, just getting into breeding, for example, and they kind of scream at you, but it's a tiny little leopard, like they can't hurt you, they will stop in like a week or two if you just handle them very gently, but frequently and confidently. The only negative I think about leopard geckos on the list is that they can drop their tail. So, I mean, if you're not careful, so just use a little bit of common sense. Don't yank on their tail. They're not going to drop it as readily as, say, like a crested gecko, for example. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. You'd really have to yank on it in order for that to happen. So just practice a little bit of common sense, supervise children, if that's who's handling the animal. And I mean, in terms of care, they're really easy. I can't think of too many reptiles that would be easier than a leopard gecko, and kind of one of the ones that if you're looking for something that is small but not too small that it's ridiculously fragile in order to handle, leopard geckos kind of take the cake. And they're super available, and they're super cheap. They're cheap to take care of. Not that that should really guide your decision. Of course, do your research. Nothing is a throwaway animal. Just because it doesn't cost a lot of money doesn't mean that it's not a life. And they are. They're amazing. I've got several of them. I love leopard geckos, and I really think that you would too. All right, speeding right along here. Number 2, ball pythons. They had to be on the list. Now, this is one where the personality matters. If you get a baby that is well socialized, you're A-okay. Sometimes if you get an adult that came from breeding stock or just an owner that didn't handle it too much, it might be a little bit more difficult to tame them out. But if you get a baby, you're going to be A-okay, because the breeder would have likely socialized them enough where you don't have to worry about taking bites from them. This is the animal that I pick up if I want to go watch something. If I just want to have something on my lap in my office while I'm watching YouTube videos, replying to comments, whatever it is that I'm doing, it's going to be a ball python, likely Pikachu. I love ball pythons. They're easy too. In terms of ease of care, it doesn't get much easier. I mean, they like it a little bit humid, but the heat isn't too much at all. There's a care guide right here if you're interested. And after that, I mean, give them a big enough enclosure and feed them like once a week or every 10 days, depending on their life cycle, where they are in their life, I mean. But that's it. I can't think of too many animals, not just reptiles, but animals in general, that would be as easy. Like, they're kind of on par with a sea monkey in terms of ease. Like, you have to scoop some poops, but besides that, just give them some places to hide and a good substrate and some places to climb. You'd be surprised how often they climb, actually. And that's it. This for sure is one of the best animals you can handle if you are looking for an animal that you don't have to worry about just kind of being unpredictable. I think these guys take the cake because the predictability of them is just, it's hard to surpass. In terms of snakes, there's really nothing that I feel more confident with when I'm handling, that they're not just going to, oh, what's that? And just kind of get all defensive out of nowhere. I think ball pythons, for many reasons, are one of the best pet reptiles that there are, The only drawback, I guess, is they need a little bit larger of an enclosure, but besides that, it's hard to beat a ball python. And number 1, friendliest reptile you could possibly own, bearded dragons. There is nothing friendlier than a bearded dragon. I absolutely love handling Diamond. Sure, he tries to bite my ear sometimes, but it's because he thinks it's food and he's a silly goose, and it doesn't really hurt. Of all the bearded dragons I've ever had, I've never felt like weird about going to get them. I've never felt nervous ever. I think by far, like not even close, there are more examples of placid bearded dragons than any other species of reptile that isn't fragile. And I'm factoring that into this because I think that crested geckos could have been on the list for sure. There's a bunch of different animals. I think it's like a perfect animal to handle, in my opinion, because they're of a good size. They can get up to 2 feet, something like that. I think he's about 20 inches. So they do need a bigger enclosure, but when you take them out of their enclosure, you don't have to worry about them being like mangled, right? Even if you hand it to a kid, always supervise children handling your bearded dragon, please. But I think that you're not gonna have to worry about them getting injured. I think that they're not gonna injure you, you won't injure them, and to me, that's the perfect animal. You can kind of handle them like, not like a doll, because they're a living thing, but I just mean in terms of how much they're gonna wiggle away from you. They're kind of doll-ish. Like, Diamond doesn't try to get away from me except for like if he sees his reflection in the glass or something like that. He is the most chill creature ever. I mean, sometimes he gets upset when I explain to him that he's never gonna grow wings or be able to breathe fire, but besides that, Diamond is a super placid guy, easy to get along with. Me and him are just best buddies, right? So he's the star of the channel for a reason. The reason that I shoot with him all the time is just simply because he doesn't move, he doesn't squirm, he doesn't try to bite me, he doesn't try to run away. This is the animal that if I want to watch a movie and I just want to sit there, if I don't want a snake, if I want a lizard instead, it's always Diamond. Even sometimes when I'm spraying down enclosures, doing reptile work, I'll throw him on my shoulder because he's got claws that are strong enough he can hold onto my shirt. I don't have to worry about him falling or moving. And sometimes when I'm editing and I have him on my shoulder, literally, these videos take 8, 9, 10 hours to edit sometimes. He will sit there without moving even once. This is one of the coolest animals ever. Maybe not if you want something super interactive that's gonna move around a lot, but otherwise, you can't beat a bearded dragon. So that's it. What do you think? Is there a friendlier reptile that I didn't mention? Do you not agree with something on the list? Let me know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, if you don't mind, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment. All those things help more than you could ever know. I really appreciate it. And as always, a special thank you to the Patreon supporters. You guys get extra content, videos early, discounts on the merch, all sorts of new things. You know about the really cool updates to the Reptile Room, which are coming really soon. Tons of work going into it. The Reptile Room tour coming up the beginning of next year is going to knock your socks off. It's gonna be amazing. So thank you so much, Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can be part of the team, and I think that's it. Because I do videos twice a week, that means that I'll see you on Monday. Or Thursday, it'll be Thursday. I'll see you on Thursday.